Hi, my name is Sharon Lowe, and for my PSA presentation, I chose to do it over the topic of environment. Alright, let's get started. My first PSA is over anti-littering, and it's called Don't Mess with Texas.
I wouldn't do it.
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 Yeah, I wouldn't do it.
I wouldn't do it. I wouldn't do it either.
I wouldn't do it.
I'd never do it. Don't mess with Texas.
Okay. The source for this PSA are the famous actors. There's Chameleonaire Matthew McConaughey, Owen Wilson, Chuck Norris, and a lot more. The receiver, which is the target audience, are Texans. And the destination, which is the intended outcome, is don't mess with Texas, or just don't litter. I thought the destination was both direct and delayed. It was direct because it's targeting a behavior in a person right there, right now. And it's delayed because it doesn't want you to just stop littering this one time. It wants you to continue doing it in the future. The source factors in this were likability. People like celebrities. It's a known fact. They tend to listen more to what they have to say. I thought it showed similarity because the celebrities in the ad are all from Texas. And since they're speaking to Texans, it shows a similarity between the source and the receiver. And attractiveness, because actors and musicians tend to be good looking. And when they're good looking, it tends to lead to liking. The consensus heuristic was also evident in this PSA. Everyone saying over and over again, I wouldn't do it. All the celebrities were showing support by saying they wouldn't do it for not littering and making the message more effective, which made the audience want to be a part of the movement. And behavioral modeling was also shown because it was present because they're using celebrities that tend to be popular role models to influence others and to not littering. All right. And for my second PSA, I chose to do it over the topic of climate change, and it's by the Department of the Environment.
Wouldn't it be great if you could change the weather with the flick of a switch? For better or worse, you can, and you do. The way we use energy in Ireland is contributing to a gradual but alarming change in the world's climate. It doesn't mean warmer summers. It means more extreme and unstable weather all year round. More storms and floods, more droughts, more coastal erosion. Help combat climate change. Turn down, switch off, leave the car at home whenever you can. The environment. It's easy to make a difference.
I think this PSA in particular did a great job of being an example of the CAT model. It was trying to teach in the ad that humans are using energy is causing climate change. And through that knowledge, they're hoping that this will change their attitudes about energy use so that they will implement the suggested practices instead. This also was a great example of a fear appeal message. Fear appeal messages are designed to scare people by describing the terrible things that will happen if they don't do what the message says. And I think this uses the extended parallel process model to do that. The message appraisal was, it doesn't just mean warmer summers. It means more extreme and unstable weather year-round. Things like more storms, droughts, and coastal erosions would happen. And it also gives a great image of the extreme weather change that could happen. It does have both threat severity and threat susceptibility. The severity is the dangerous weather, and the susceptibility is everyone's affected by climate change, not just Ireland. The solution it gives in the message is to turn down thermostats, switch off lights, and when you're not in use, or just take a bike and leave the car at home whenever possible. And I think, yes, it does have efficacy. It gives super easy solutions, and they're very easy to implement. And since it does have all 4 components of extended parallel process model, it's a danger control message, which is associated with behavior change. So since all 4 are present, this ad does a great job of giving good examples that will lead to people actually making a change. My third public service announcement is over water pollution, and it's called Every Drop Counts. The input variables in this PSA, the receiver, everyone with access to running and clean water. And the destination, preserve nature's resources, don't waste the water. I think this was a great example of how components in an ad add to the message. It used text was definitely the focus of the message. It was bold and white and easy to read. And the image in the background was the girl. She was blurred in the background, but she was shown doing what the text says. And the music also added to the text because it was motivational and placed emphasis at the end, but didn't have any words. So the entire time, your entire focus was on the text and what it had to say. This ad also used specific recommendations and specific conclusions. The specific recommendations it gave were build a sink instead of running water when you're washing your dishes, and use leftover water and ice to water plants, and fixing leaky faucets around the house. That can save up to 30 gallons of water a year, it said in the ad. I also thought it had an explicit conclusion. It said preserve nature's resources at the end. It just wants you to not waste water. I think it also showed self-efficacy, which is the belief that you can successfully do something. Through the use of specific recommendations and the explicit conclusion, the ad gives the audience simple and everyday examples of how they cannot waste water, which makes them feel like they could successfully make a change to help the problem. Alright, my fourth PSA is over global warming, and it's titled Train, and it's by the Ad Council.
Global warming. Some say irreversible consequences are 30 years away. 30 years? That won't affect me.
Okay. The input variables in this message, the source was the middle-aged man talking on the tracks in the ad, and the receiver, I think, was parents. They're the ones that would care the most about making this change. So their kids don't have to deal with the problems they're created 30 years from now. I think this was a great example of a high sensation value message. It was definitely novel. It was out of the norm from normal global warming campaigns, which usually have to do with polar bears and the ice caps melting and just throwing a lot of information at you. This was definitely suspenseful. You're just watching the train get closer and closer to the man, and the music at the end is creating suspense. It's definitely dramatic. Again, that music at the end is very like wah wah. And I think the PSA ends with the presumed conclusion the little girl was run over, and the music and conclusion are dramatic as well. Alright, I think it was also emotionally arousing. It definitely shocks the viewers at the last moment, showing the little girl and thinking that she's going to get run over, and it definitely leaves the audience with a definite emotional arousal. Alright, I definitely think this is another example of a fear appeal message. It's definitely designed to scare the audience into doing something about global warming now and not later. And I also thought it also presented theory of reasoned action. The ad is just trying to change the norm of global warming to something that's important and needs to be dealt with now. It tries to change the norms in hopes to sway the attitudes of people to agreeing that it's a problem now, so that the two will align and result in an actual behavior change. And actual behaviors. Alright? And finally, my last PSA is over carbon pollution, and it's Say Yes Australia.
What if we say yes to making big companies pay when they pollute our skies?
We'd be saying yes to less carbon pollution.
Yes to new money for clean energy that never runs out.
Yes to help for people struggling with bills.
Yes to jobs.
Yes to better health for our kids.
And finally, doing something about climate change.
So let's say yes, Australia, because Because yes is what makes this country great.
Authorised by M. Wood and Hamilton.
All right. The input variables in this message, the source was all Australians. It showed both young and old, all genders and races in this ad. The receiver is definitely eligible Australian voters because they wanted you to say yes and vote. The destination, say yes to putting a price on carbon pollution in 2011. It's definitely an immediate destination. It wants you to vote right now, not later. This ad was a great example of elaboration likelihood model. It deals with persuasion and is a dual process theory describing how attitudes form and change. It has both it's definitely motivated and have ability, so it's the central route. The ability is prior knowledge on global warming. Most people know it's a problem, and more studies are showing that people are causing it. And it's motivated because of the relevance of the issue. If you are Australian who wants more jobs, better air, financial help, it would be relevant to you. And its motivational orientation is it's a game-framed message designed for promotion-focused people. Say yes, in general, just focuses on attaining desirable outcomes. And it emphasizes the benefits of saying yes. Less carbon pollution, money for clean energy, and for people struggling with bills, better health for everyone, and just doing something about climate change. And I think this again showed self-efficacy. Voting yes is easy to do, and people will definitely feel like it's something that they are capable of doing. All right, thank you so much.